Hey everybody, welcome back to the table. Back with my good friend, Mr. Mike Foster.
We should just call it the round table.
I was thinking of calling it like a passion play, like all white, all black.
As long as I can be Satan and you be Jesus.
No, because today I'm going to be the devil's advocate. So I
okay.
want to, we're gonna talk through some stuff. And no, these wardrobes are not metaphors for anything good, bad.
Nor do we plan them.
No, it just
happens. And
yeah.
So black and white.
Here we are. Hey, I'm just gonna tell you kind of where I'm at in life.
Good. Bring it on.
And then I want to, almost like this is a counseling session, I want you to just walk me through this. And I think some of the things that you'd say to me are going to be helpful to everybody. So we haven't really planned this necessarily, so we'll see how it goes.
I can't wait to hear what you have to disclose to me and everybody who's watching.
Well, here's where I would start. If you would have told me 10 weeks ago, or if you would have asked me, I'm a pastor, lead a church, do I need the energy and the affirmation of Sunday morning, the body gathering to do church and to feel energized and excited? I would say no. I don't need, we can find a way to lead people, shepherd people, and I don't necessarily need that to feel like that's necessary. I mean, I do feel like the Sunday gathering, but that's not really the point. The point is, after 10 weeks of this, here's what I was setting up. Sundays are really, really hard just for me personally because I don't have any affirmation. I don't have any, you're doing this by yourself in a room on a Sunday. So after 10 weeks of that, one of the things that I've really noticed is interesting is my own desire to be loved, appreciated, and just, I'm not saying that so people will start saying, oh man, we love you and appreciate you. I'm just saying that because that's the reality of Sunday is you have that energy, you have that feedback, you have that moment, and now you don't, and it is really, really hard. And I know we have talked before about codependency. We've talked before around topics of just emotional health. And there's something about this moment in time where we are all isolated without relationships that has been hard. And whether it's you're a preacher, whether you don't get the feedback from your coworkers that you used to walking in, seeing people, help me.
Well, let me ask you this. When you don't get that affirmation, when you don't get that feedback, what questions do you start asking about yourself?
Am I good enough? Well, part of it is just when can we go back to the way things were? Because that's the system, or that's the way that I got used to. But you just start to question yourself. I think you start to wonder, am I helpful? Is what we're doing helpful? All those sort of, am I loved? Probably it's the big one. Isn't that interesting? Like how powerful not having that affirmation or not having the opportunity to get feedback, like how it can just really cause us to question everything. Foundationally shakes us. And it's with my kids too, because my kids, the old system was you go to work, you come home, kids are really excited to see you. Now they see me all the time and they're never excited to see me. And so you feel the same way with your family where, wait a second, it's dad, and you don't have that same response that you used to. And so you start to wonder, is it me? What am I? I think that's the struggle. And I'd love to say, oh, I'm bulletproof. It doesn't bother me. I'm fine. But those have been heavy pieces to this whole pandemic thing. Yeah. And I think you're not the only one. For me, I like to say, number one, and I've talked about it here at CRB, I'm in a 12-step Codependence Anonymous group. I attend that. I work the steps, and my addiction
that I'm recovering from is the addiction of people's approval
Yeah.
and being wanted and being needed. And it was so bad in my life that I actually had to go into recovery for that. And I have to be on that topic, and I have to be thinking about codependency. And really codependency and this kind of thing you're talking about is I am going to do something for you so you will love me back. And so like for you standing on stage and preaching a good message, it's like, this is the transaction. Now, all this is subconscious. We're not thinking about this. This isn't like some evil plan that Pastor Jared has in order to get love. But it is the way how we as human beings figure out ways for us to answer the question, do I have value?
Yeah.
Am I loved? Do I belong here? And we find all different transactional ways to answer that question instead of just knowing I am loved, right?
Yeah, starting with that, I'm loved before. I mean, I'm a preacher, so I always got to go back to the scriptures. I've always been fascinated with the story of Jesus' baptism because it actually happens before he does anything.
Yeah.
And if you read it, he's called the beloved, and then he goes out. It's not, hey, you turn water into wine.
Yeah. You've done all these great things.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're the beloved before you've actually moved and before you've healed anybody. And that's really...
And that to me is the core problem, right?
Yeah.
We don't believe that yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so it isn't until we believe before we do a thing, preach a great message, be a great parent,
counseling,
whatever
anybody's out there doing,
right?
Yeah.
Until we kind of rest in that place of I am loved, we're always going to be sort of in these codependent transactional relationships where I'm saying like, you love me, right? And if I'm unsure, let me do something more for you.
Yeah.
Let me be better. Let me own things that are not mine to own. One of the things that I always say for codependency, like a sign of codependent relationships, is what I call the overs. So anytime any expression of love or kindness is in an over state, so like over responsibility, over giving, over performing, over functioning around something, then we know that we're off. And ultimately that question, like, am I worthy? Am I valuable? Am I loved? We're trying to get it answered.
Yeah. That makes total sense. I mean, I would probably use the language swerve out of my lane, but I will find like somebody's in crisis and you swerve out of your lane all the time, trying to help, trying to save. And at a certain level, you're helping that person, but come on, it helps me. It helps. I feel good about myself. And I was going to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say like, and that's probably the myth, is that you think you're actually being helpful. But really what you're doing, and may sound a little bit harsh, you're actually manipulating something for love.
Yeah.
That's the truth. And anytime we're not dealing with truth, we actually aren't being very loving to somebody.
How have you seen, I think, a couple of questions. One, where does this originate in our story? But also, how has the pandemic accelerated codependency?
Yeah. Well, first of all, a lot of times when we think about codependency and hear that word, we always think about it in terms of alcohol addiction, drugs, that relationship. And certainly that would apply, and certainly codependency expresses itself when we're trying to help an addict or a family member who's addicted to something. We do that a lot. We get into these codependent relationships. We got to save them. Enable. We gotta do their work. So, I always tell people, there's three types of work. There's your work, there's my work, and then there's God's work. And we always have to make sure that we're doing my work. I'm not doing your work. And I especially don't want to be doing God's work, right?
Yeah.
I don't want that responsibility. But a codependent will actually try to do all three.
Yeah. I'm the Holy Spirit, I'm you, and I've somehow got to be me.
Yeah. instead of saying,
Wow.
why don't I focus
Yeah.
on my work? Why don't I do it's a lot more, honestly, it's a lot more fun to do your work
Yeah, I don't have to do mine.
because I don't have to do
And
mine.
somewhere along the way, we often learn in church that's what spiritual people do.
Yeah.
We play the role of Holy Spirit. We play the role of you. And all of a sudden, I think you taught me this phrase, do you care more about the problem than they do?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, man, that'll set you free.
It's codependency when you care about the problem more than they do.
You're way involved beyond the
over involved,
overachieving,
over
overperforming.
responsibility. The overs show up in a big way. Back to your point, like where does this start? So let's clear away some of the misconceptions. Codependence can only be in relationship with addicts, or it's only an alcohol thing. Or whatever. That's not true. Most of us have codependency in our relationships. Most of us have some form of codependency in terms of how we're showing up in the world. So like, let's own that. Say that it does. If you're watching this right now, it does apply to you. You could probably look at a few of your relationships right now where you're trying to manage their emotions. You're trying to get them to like you or love you, or you're overperforming with this. And it's like, okay, that's codependency.
And talking with business leaders who are leading organizations, companies, their division at their place, and they're talking through the dynamics of their team. You see this all the time for somebody who's in a boss situation where they get over involved in a personal decision of an employee, or they get overextended, and they're now owning emotionally at a deep level how every employee or person feels about them, and they can't sleep at night. And that's part of what's happening right now.
Well, yeah, if you're so enmeshed with this person that you're now owning their emotional state.
And you feel spiritual doing it.
Yeah.
Like it feels like, oh, that's what I should do. And one of the things that I see a lot in my own life and in other people's lives is you actually have really good intentions. I think what we're trying to do here is clear away what's actually helpful and what's actually destructive. You can have really good intentions and end up getting your heart enmeshed in ways that's very destructive to you and ultimately to the other person. How do you, back to the origin piece of this, this begins where? Because I think you've got to go
family.
there.
So, and if you're not sure if you're a codependent or have codependency kind of in some of your relationships, think about your childhood and just think about, were there moments in your family where maybe there was your brother or sister was out of control and there was a lot of attention being put on your brother and sister, and all of a sudden was the whole family's responsibility to make sure brother or sister is okay.
Yeah.
Right? Or dad's got an alcohol problem and he's got an anger issue, and then the whole family kind of orients around managing that emotion and make sure we don't set off dad. It's this type of enmeshment, and maybe it could be just mom shared a lot of information with you about the marriage.
You were asked to be 20 years old when you were 10.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where we learn these patterns of, I am responsible for your emotional state. I'm responsible for your happiness. Again, now I'm doing your work.
Yeah.
That's your work, not my work. And so it gets, my guess is like, we all kind of like, oh yeah, we kind of had a lot of enmeshment, a lot of like taking on responsibility that wasn't ours. You know, it's amazing how as kids, we think I'm responsible for mom and dad's marriage. I'm responsible for the finances in the home. Like if maybe there's a financial issue or a bankruptcy, and all of a sudden you feel the weight of that responsibility as a child.
And in certain situations, those things maybe were required, or you just did it, and later on you tell the story in such a way that it's like, well, I did what I had to do.
Yeah.
But it's possible to look back on that and say some unhealthy things got entrenched in my life that I maybe needed to survive then, but now the wear and tear of carrying that into adulthood is actually, it's suffocating, and I can't do this.
Yeah, and I would say most codependents are exhausted
Yeah.
because they're doing everybody's work.
Yeah.
They're responsible for everybody's emotional state. It's like it's always a constant state of management, right?
Yeah.
I'm managing everything. Another word for that management would be manipulation, or I'm trying to control you to get an outcome that I want. I want you to love me, accept me, include me. I want to be liked by you. It's why, I feel the same pressure too, like on a Sunday morning, like when I'm sharing, it's like, I really want you to like me.
Yeah.
And if I stand on the stage and go like, if that's the driving force of my message or my experience on a Sunday morning, do you know how much stress there's going to be during the week? Or do you know how many questions are going to be after I'm done speaking, giving that message? I'm going to be like, ah.
Well, and I can't, in the speaking side, or if it's somebody in crisis that I'm showing up, I actually can't help you if I need that from you.
Yes, that's right.
I'm the worst person to show up. If all I need from you is you to tell me I'm doing a great job, then it's like going to a counselor and they tell you, hey, here's 3 things I need you to do. And then you don't do them. And they look back at you and they're like, well, how dare, It's like, wait a second, is this about you helping me, or is this about you feeling good about yourself as a counselor because I did the things you asked?
That's right.
You need to be free from the response of people and the feedback, the love that they give you. Just step into whatever moment, not being emotionally responsible for them.
Well, I think here's the thing. So again, recovering codependent. I believe I have a healthy marriage right now because I actually don't need Jennifer to like me, which allows me to tell the truth, to not hold things back, not try to manage, well, would she be upset if I said this? It has allowed my marriage to thrive and to be close because I'm willing to tell her the truth. I think I have healthy relationships with friends because I'm willing to say what I need to say. And that's a big problem with codependency too, is you're withholding truth, you're withholding information, you're withholding a real need.
That's the exhausting part.
Yeah, that's a totally exhausting part because basically I want to make sure that you respond the way that I want you to respond.
Always manipulating an outcome.
Always manipulating.
So withhold, deflect. And I think, again, for most people who've never heard this phrase used in this setting, it's like, whoa, no, that's not what I'm doing. I'm being a good Christian, whatever.
No, that's not me.
Yeah,
That's somebody else.
Yeah. It looks 1,000 different ways. It's if you spend an hour trying to figure out what to text that person, like if you're constantly stressed, it looks 1,000 different ways. If you're at that conversation and you're trying to you're saying the hard thing, but you're also trying to, I was using the example earlier, you call somebody 10 minutes after you tell them bad news to see how they're doing. It's
right.
like that's all codependency because the phrase that you used with me one time is you're 100% responsible for your 50% of a relationship.
Yeah. Yep.
And that to me is such a paradigm shift because I want to get, I'm 90%.
Into Rose 50%?
Yeah, exactly. I not only did I need to tell you this, but now I need to see how you're responding and what you're doing and how do you feel and what's and
I'll do your work and my work and maybe somebody else's work too while we're at it.
And you said earlier, I don't need Jen to like me. Well, the reality is if you show up in that way, she actually likes you more.
Well, she actually loves me.
She actually
There's love.
Yeah.
That's to me if I'm only trying to get her to like me, if I'm only trying to get peace in my relationship, if that's at the compromise, when self-betrayal, through compromising my own needs, compromising what I think so that she'll be happy, that's not going to create a foundation of a strong marriage. I think we talk about the hard things. I'm not going to be, if she's going to be in a funk about what I say, I can't own that. Yeah. I just have, and again, I'm not talking about being a jerk when we say things or being harsh with truth, but sharing openly and vulnerably and not trying to control somebody's response to what I'm saying. And that's when we begin to be free from codependency. Here's what I always tell people. You know you are breaking the chains of codependency when you have a strong voice and strong legs. And what I mean by that is the strong voice is saying, here's what I need, here's what I believe, here's what I'm insecure about, here's the story I'm telling myself about this relationship right now. Whatever it is, like, I'm going to be strong with that voice. Codependent will hold back that voice, right?
Yeah, you're afraid to take up space in the world.
Yep.
You shrink back because you're terrified.
And the shrinking back is really just about controlling, right? I'm going to not say that so you'll be okay
I may be miserable, but at least they're happy.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to say it. And and if you are miserable in your relationship right now, you're probably full-blown codependent.
And if you've spiritualized it, well, this is what good Christians do. They bite the bullet so that everybody else around them in the family can at least temporarily smile until the next thing hits. A couple things. One, how's the pandemic made this worse? But also, if this is you, what do you do, especially right now, to start to find some freedom from it?
Well, I think it's made it worse in the sense that there's a lot more hurt and pain and suffering in the world.
Yeah.
And so if you struggle with codependency, you're going to be leaning strong into that.
Yeah.
And honestly, probably what you're doing is you're not even recognizing your own pain and suffering. Yeah. It's always easier for me to do your work than my work.
Yeah.
It's always easier for me to address your pain than my pain. And so I think that's going to be flaring up with your kids. Your kids are suffering. My daughter right now, her graduation and her senior year has been like a disaster, right?
Yeah.
Or at least the ending of it.
Could not go worse.
Could not go
a
worse.
Senior in high school.
And I, as a father, I want to take, my daughter's had a tough season, right? And I want to take on all that emotional state and all that stuff. And I want to try to fix the problem. And I do. I think love would be say, okay, I want to figure out if there's some solutions here. I want to step in and try to help where I can. But the problem is then in the overs. Okay, I see so I'm going to go above and beyond, or I'm going to make sure that she's always happy even when she's feeling sad. It's like I'm going to hijack her process of working through the disappointment of her kind of losing her senior year and the prom and the graduation and all these things. Now, again, we just have to be aware of it. Like the reason why I can have sobriety and codependency isn't that I'm perfect in terms of how I engage with people, but I'm aware of my tendency for the overs.
Yeah.
My tendency to hold back my voice in order to get your approval. My tendency to allow people to bust through my boundaries just because it's helpful for them, but a disaster for me. That's what if we can become aware of it, we can see it. Pay attention.
Mike, this is such a massive topic and it's not going away pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. This is life for people, relationships. This is who we are as people. One thing I think that has been very, very helpful for me personally is just remembering that phrase, you are the beloved, you are the beloved. And in fact, every Sunday before I come on to stage to speak, I will stand at the base of the stairs and I will repeat this mantra to myself over and over again. You are the loved son of the perfect Father.
Okay, give that to me again.
You are the loved son of the perfect Father.
Wow.
Because I feel like when I say that to myself, it's freeing me from all the is that joke funny, all that stuff. Yeah. And I can step into the moment to actually help people. And so
it's powerful.
If you're listening to this and you're going, I don't have a clue where to start, and I see the enmeshment in my relationships, the best place to start, maybe you just want to do this right now, put your hand over your heart and say, I'm the loved son or I'm the loved daughter of the perfect Father.
Wow.
And that's not just some Jared mantra. That's actually how God met Jesus before the whole ministry began, by saying, this is my son whom I'm well pleased. This is my beloved. And I would just want anybody who's interacting with this podcast to hear, you are the beloved and you can be free. So thanks.
So good.
This is so helpful today, and I hope it's been helpful to you too.